How do you guys sleep at night? You obviously don't have a My Pillow. That's a fact.
He's a great guy.
Well, it is an exciting day for us here at LindellTV as our network is now in the press pool rotation and getting the direct attention from President Trump. Welcome to Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. Coming up, we'll show you what we heard from President Trump with our Kara Castronova there in the Oval Office posing some questions there. Also coming up, we will be joined by Ann Vandersteel and later Dan Lyman to break down how Biden's open border is still doing damage, even after Trump's bold deportation efforts. But first, we are keeping an eye on DC, bringing you the truth about Trump's crackdown on crime in our capital. You know, most of the legacy media, they've been gaslighting, trying to deny the violence there, but they may be learning this is not a winning strategy. Even leftist legacy media puppet Joe Scarborough is admitting now DC has not been safe. Watch.
You can walk 40, 50, 60 blocks in Manhattan at 2 in the morning and feel safe. And yet in Washington, D.C., I've got friends that worked in the Biden White House. I have friends that work in the media that say they don't feel safe walking 3 blocks in Washington, D.C. Why can't Washington be fixed, despite what the crime numbers say? Because people aren't feeling it.
You know, often it's the perception of being safe or unsafe that affects cities. And I think that's what's happened in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has 3,400 police officers. They're undermanned. The National Guard will provide a presence. And sometimes that's all you need to clear a block or clear a person's mind that it's okay to walk that block. Police presence, or the symbols of police presence. So
all right, we want to see how our Allison Steinberg is doing there in D.C. She's live there with the latest on these efforts and what Trump had to say today. Allison.
Hi, Christy. Great to see you. Yes, it's been a very exciting day here at the White House. Lots of action. Kara Castronova, our White House correspondent, got quite a bit of attention from the administration today, which is great. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, I think if we have her clip, I don't know if we have it. It was sort of last minute. Do we have the clip of Kara asking Trump about DC crime? We can play that if we do. There we go. Let's play.
About crime statistics. Police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in DC. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation right now. They are giving us phony crime stats, just like they gave other stats in the financial world, but they're phony crime stats. And Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city. I mean, I say that. You're going to have virtually a crime-free city. And these are strong men, but the criminals are strong men and women, but they're strong men. And these are people that don't play games. We're not playing games. These are criminals we're dealing with. And they treated people. They took one of the people that worked for us the other day. You saw the beating, the pounding, 10 against 1. And they pounded the hell out of him. He's lucky to be alive. He's barely, almost killed. And we're not going to have that happen.
So great question from Kara, as we know and have been uncovering on Lindell TV. Much of the crime statistics that have been reported here are falsified and fudged to make it seem as though the crime isn't nearly as bad as it is. But we don't need, these fake numbers to tell us whether or not the crime is bad. We experience it every day, living and working here. It's terrifying to even leave the house at times because you never know if you might get stabbed or shot or carjacked. Who knows? The options are endless here in DC, and that is because these criminals are not being prosecuted. No one is held accountable, and they basically get to run free when they commit these horrible crimes. So it sounds like President Trump is going to conduct his own investigation into what is happening here. And I think that's a step in the right direction as the National Guard is deployed here. And we have the cops coming in from other areas to make DC safe again as a result of the federalization of the district. It seems like we are moving in the right direction to start to make an impact here. My question is, though, how do we create lasting change? Lasting change needs to be created to really turn this issue around. I know Trump did mention, he was asked by the press on Wednesday if he would work with Congress to get this under control and keep this issue going as far as, increasing the police presence here. He said that he was wanting to work with Congress to extend the emergency authorization, allowing him to temporarily seize control of local law enforcement. And he said he will ask Congress for a long-term extension of federal authority over the Washington police force. So that is good news. We will see what happens there with Congress. That'll be very telling and sort of determine whether or not DC stays safe.
Excellent. And, it seems like they are not going to win this narrative war trying to paint DC as crime going down. I mean, we even heard, I believe, from the police unions on this that are in support of President Trump.
Yeah, the police unions are seemingly in support of President Trump. This is a big step because, for so long, I think they were told by the radical leftist mayor here that they weren't allowed to really do their job. But now they're coming forward and saying they fully support President Trump's efforts to federalize the district. Let's take a listen to this clip from DC Police Union Chairman Greg Pemberton.
The department is reporting that in 2024, crime went down 35%, violent crime, and then again another 25% through August of this year. That is preposterous to suggest that cumulatively we've seen 60+% drops in violent crime from where we were in 23, because we're out on the street, we know the calls we're responding to.
So there you have it. There's that. There's also an increased calls growing to make DC safe again by local residents. In just simply talking to people out here and seeing various videos online, even hearing stories of White House staffers, White House reporters, the very people from the legacy liberal media outlets that claim to report that crime is down here in D.C. actually, lo and behold, tell a lot of the people here that they don't feel safe here. They don't even want to walk to their cars or leave their homes because they feel so unsafe in D.C. And then they go on screen and read their scripts and tell you otherwise. But regardless, the people are speaking up. Let's take a listen to this D.C. cab driver who also supports the cleanup.
I drove a cab in D.C. I know every inch of the city. To have seen over the years the deterioration of public places, either with graffiti or with people living who are homeless, they say, living on the street. I couldn't be more encouraged by the fact that there are people now that really want to say, stop, let's make this better.
So good news there. Hopefully, the people are talking and willing to come forward and speak the truth on this issue. It is a serious issue that's sadly impacted so many. So I'm grateful for people like that DC cab driver who are brave enough and bold enough to speak the truth, because the liberals try to do everything they can to suppress the truth and, appeal to whatever is left of their base to, reject this idea. We've seen protesters out in the streets here. I guess there's another protest planned this week, and as well, probably paid protesters, if I had to guess, because who could really not be in favor of making DC safe again? It is so ridiculous. But Chrissy, another big issue that ties into making DC safe again is, of course, the homeless issue. As we know, the homeless problem has become just out of control to say the least. Namely, really during COVID is when it all exploded, and these liberal blue sanctuary cities and states have allowed these tent cities to pop up everywhere. It's very sad what's happened. Beautiful cities like San Diego and Los Angeles, my hometown, just destroyed by these tents. Well, now that is no longer, because the Trump administration is taking over DC. And they're bulldozing down any tents that remain. I believe it was reported in the press briefing that 70% of the homeless encampments have been taken down, and they are working to get rid of whatever remains. So you can see they're now bulldozing, which really just goes to show, is the issue that hard to solve? I guess not. Gavin Newsom was able to do it in a day when the Chinese leaders came to visit him in San Francisco. And now we can just take care of it in one day here. So clearly it's not that hard to solve, despite what the Democrats have said for so long.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because, because our news cycle is so wild and so fast, sometimes we forget those moments, but that's so important to remember that. I mean, it took China, wanting to impress China, not do right by Americans. It took China, and he even kind of bragged about it at the time. Oh yeah, we got these visitors, we got to clean it up, and yet they mock Trump wanting to clean up DC for Americans and for the people that work and live there to feel more safe. So glad you brought that point up, because that's one of those things that had slipped my mind until I was like, oh yeah, it's wild.
I know
that they do this,
There's so much to try to remember. I wish I had a Rolodex of everything that's happened that I could keep in my mind somehow. I guess that's what AI will be good for at some point. But yeah, it's hard to remember everything with all of the insanity that happens on literally a minute by minute basis here. But yeah, it just goes to show the Democrats have allowed the homeless problem to take place. Many of these blue cities have incentivized the homeless to continue on with their very destructive ways. I mean, we even heard about, I think it was during the COVID era too, homeless people being given drug paraphernalia, and there are zero repercussions for many of these people when they're literally openly injecting drugs in the middle of the street. It's so disgusting. It's so sad. It's so heartbreaking to see so many beautiful cities destroyed by this. But I'm glad to see the bulldozers. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Is it sad? I don't know. I know that in the press briefing, Caroline Leavitt said that the homeless people will be given an option. They can either agree to go to treatment. They can agree to stop using drugs. They're going to have some options. If they agree to any one of them, they'll be, taken care of. But if not, then they're going to face fines or jail time and have their tents destroyed. So I think we need some tough love in this situation. It's gone on for way too long, so I'm glad to see this happening. Hopefully, we'll see the trend continue in other blue sanctuary cities and states, because that's the only way it's going to get cleaned up. And I know the people, the residents of these areas, are fed up with it for having gone on for so long. So hopefully we see that trend continue. One last thing on the topic of cleaning up DC that I wanted to mention, Christy, is I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing, a big reason why the crime continues and has been allowed to persist is because I just learned this. I thought this was rather shocking, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. Anyone who is 24 years old and younger who commits a crime here in Washington, D.C., does not go to jail. This is a real story. This is true 100%. There was a bill that was attempted to be passed last year by Byron Donalds. This bill would change it so that anyone 18 and over would go to jail if they commit a crime, since it's currently 24 years old. But unfortunately, that died in the Senate. It did originally pass the House, died in the Senate. Byron Donalds is officially reintroducing this bill to make that change so that anyone 18 and up, any adult, is actually put in jail if they commit a crime. So hopefully now that we have the majority in the Senate, we can actually pass this through. I think, like I said, in order to create lasting change and making DC safe again, we have to have some real long-term solutions. So hopefully this one is passed when it is reintroduced, Christy.
And it's like they're doing these cleaning up DC efforts in conjunction with tackling the illegal aliens getting more and more into the interior of our country, particularly the illegal alien problem there in DC as well, correct?
Yes, well, that is true. The illegals are another big problem here. Again, sanctuary city. But that was actually a question that was asked, I believe, to Caroline Leavitt in the last press briefing, is with the, federalization of DC, what's going to happen to the illegals if in doing the job of the police, they find an illegal alien? Will they, face repercussions? Well, yes, of course they will. They will absolutely face repercussions. And it's sounding like now, finally, what should have been done long ago is the DC chief of police is now going to allow the police force to assist ICE. I mean, you would think that this would just be common sense, that this should have been happening. Though I regret to inform you, it's not as, great a news as you might initially think. There's still quite a bit of items that they will not cooperate with ICE on. If you read this, it's just the first two lines are the only two things they're going to help with. The rest they will not. So basically, because the federal agents will be working alongside MPD, they'll help with traffic stops if the federal agents find illegals, and I guess help with transport. But they won't share, any information from jails or any further information that could be of use to actually carry out the deportation. So, it's minimal help, I guess. It's better than what was happening before, but still not great. So, yeah, I guess we'll see if we can put more pressure on them to actually step up and assist in a more,
when this woman doesn't even know what chain of command means. I'm sure many of you have seen the clip going around of her being like, chain of command? What's that? I mean, this is like how pathetic position that we're in. I know you have more to share because it's an exciting day with Kara in the Oval Office. But my time is up. We have another guest coming up, Allison. So I just want to remind that remind our viewers that if you want to see the incredible questions Kara Castronova asked in the Oval Office, you can always find the full clips there on @RealLindellTV. That's our account on X. You'll also find some zingers from Allison there from time to time. So if you aren't already following our X account @RealLindellTV, please do so you never miss any bit of our growing coverage of DC. And Allison, we're so glad and proud that you're a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christy. Appreciate it.
Yes, you bet. So we have an exciting guest coming up here in just a moment, and Vander Steele will be covering how we are trying to dig ourselves out of the mess of this open border policy that Biden had. We've cleaned up the border, but we are now getting to enjoy the benefits of how many of these illegal aliens have kind of embedded themselves into our country, and what's being done about that right now, what we still have to work on. She's coming up in just a minute, but a quick reminder, also want to let you know that we want you to be part of our editorial process. Help us decide what topics you want to hear about, and send us news tips. And you can do that at news@LindellTV. That's news@LindellTV.com. And as I said, we're going to now take a quick break. We'll be back with Ann Vander Steele after this.
Too many pharmacies and insurance companies are blocking the medications that actually work. That's why I recommend All Family Pharmacy. They give you access to treatments like ivermectin now, starting at just $2 a capsule. They also have methylene blue, hydroxychloroquine, and so much more. They're helping you stay prepared, and they've dropped their prices by 25%. Also use promo code Lindell10, you save even more. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Use promo code Lindell10 and get the medicine you need. If you want to drop extra pounds, boost energy levels, and reduce swelling in your legs and feet, then this message is for you. Pure Health Research is on a mission to make America healthy again. And two of their best-selling health supplements are leading the way. First is Liver Health Formula. Over 100 million Americans have a sluggish liver that's riddled with fatty deposits. This can kill your metabolism, pile on the pounds, and make you feel tired. Liver Health Formula takes care of that. It supports thriving liver health with special nutrients like artichoke extract and milk thistle. This is one of the easiest ways to slim down and revitalize your energy levels. Next is Lymph System Support. If you struggle with fluid buildup or swelling in your legs, ankles, and feet, this is for you. The natural ingredients and lymph system support help gently flush away extra fluid and toxins out of your body. And right now, for a limited time, you get 35% off liver health formula and lymph system support, along with 50 plus other health supplements that Pure Health Research has to offer. So head over to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. That's purehealthresearch.com, promo code Lindell to save 35% on your order today.
Welcome back to DC Dispatch. You know, big day, Oval Office. We were there, Kara Castronova representing, and we heard from President Trump talking and celebrating the fact that there have been 0 releases of illegal immigrants into the country there at the border for 3 straight months now. But this is an ongoing problem as far as the illegal immigrants that remain here, and also is related to the cleanup efforts there in DC as they're rooting out some of the illegals from that sanctuary city. Border Hawk Dan Lyman's going to share more of that action in D.C. In just a bit. But first, we want to welcome Ann Vandersteel, who is a co-founder of American Made Foundation, a thought leader and trailblazer in new media, and as the former president and co-host on Your Voice in America, popular conservative news media news and analysis show, she's built her reputation as a trusted news source who respects the responsibility of delivering accurate news and analysis with consistency, which is why you can find her right now here on Lindell TV. So thank you, Ann, for joining me today. We do need to celebrate these achievements, these things that Trump has been able to accomplish, but there's still so much that needs to be done to clean up the mess from the former administration, right?
Oh my gosh, if that isn't an understatement, I don't know. I call it cleanup on aisle 46, really. And then before that, it was aisle 44, 43, and so forth. 45 looked pretty clean to me, and 47 is doing the best it can, but there's still a lot undermining. I mean, starting in DC by bulldozing, this reminds me of what happened where I live here in South Florida. About 30 years ago, they started cleaning up downtown West Palm Beach, and now you have the beautiful downtown development, and it was full of shanties and drug dealers. And the police, if you were driving through there at 1 a.m, didn't stop you at a red light. They let you go through the red light because they knew it wasn't safe. And so, we have a fiduciary duty to protect the people in D.C. It's sad that it has to come to this point where, you're reporting that we've got to, send National Guard in to protect. But this is the state of America that is run by corporatocracy, isn't it? And this is what we saw during the Biden regime. Corporations were, really just have been running the show for some time through all this agency government, and Biden weaponized these agencies to commit these atrocities, and including ignoring Article 4, Section 4 of our Constitution and leaving those borders wide open.
And I want to ask more about that, but you just made me think of the fact that there is some pushback and some particular, let's just say The Atlantic. The Atlantic, for example, came out with how is the right, not getting actually upset that Trump is bringing all this federal agents in and everything, because these were the ones that were speaking against a police state. And here we are. And it's such a joke. I mean, from my perspective, we're talking about 2 completely different things. They were just going after parents and people who didn't want to get a experimental jab. But do you think that will affect anyone? I don't know, this does make me a little bit nervous. We're using safety as an excuse to bring in more federal government.
Sure, I completely understand that argument, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and DC is Rome. It is a corporate entity right now, and it is being run as such through agency. If we want to get really serious about this, Christy, we have to start to, have serious conversations about restoring the constitutional republic. And as it's structured right now, Congress, is in control of DC. They're supposed to be, and this home rule notion has got to be stripped away because clearly, as your previous guest was talking about, the police chief in Washington, D.C. doesn't understand what her real job and areas of responsibility are. So it took Muriel Bowser, I call her Bow Wow, to sort of step in and try and clean up what's actually going on here. The fact of the matter is you have a corporation in D.C. under 28 U.S.C. 3002-15A, and it is being run as such. If you want to restore this, let's put D.C. back where it belongs, and let's restore the constitutional fabric of this country, which means that you would really be returning land back to the states that initially had their land stripped away to create this, federal entity, and it has now become corporatized and is being ruled through titles and codes and agencies that really have no real representation for the people. Because again, these are people that were appointed and put into these bureaucratic roles that you and I never chose. And they're using their mandates and codes to try to govern we the people. And that's not how the system is designed. We are supposed to be a constitutional republic protected by our Constitution, not ruled by mandates and codes, which is in fact what's happening. And so those mandates and codes, like everything in Washington, D.C., all those agencies have allowed this corruption to fester. And again, defunding the police is the flavor of the day. So look to all the cities where they've defunded the police. And what do you have? Total chaos and anarchy. And the criminals are running the asylum.
Absolutely. With legacy media, we're so used to being gaslit. And one of the narratives out there is like, well, a lot of these people, we're here legally. They went through a legal process. But something that you and your co-founder Maureen have really been successful at outlining is just this process of being here legally was fraudulent on its basis as well. Can you run through that quickly?
Oh, sure. So she put out an incredible Substack recently about border and tyranny. And, to be very clear, the Biden regime using affirmative asylum, allowing illegal entrants being funneled into our country for a quick, credible fear interview, often only 10 minutes in length. And suddenly they're now here legally in an asylum process. They get a notice to appear in court, which could be 5 years away. And until then, they're considered legally present. This loophole has basically drained us. It has drained America. After 180 days, these legally present migrants, they're really illegal criminals. They get an employment authorization. They get documents for 5 years to work. They get a social security number assigned to them. And with that, they qualify for all this because the law requires a legal presence. Translation, basically a 10-minute interview, Christy, turns into a lifetime benefit that you and I worked our whole lives to earn. They get because they just put 1 foot over the border and, claim asylum. This is basically theft disguised as policy. And this is the greatest transfer of American wealth to foreign nationals without your consent, my consent, any of our consents. We didn't do a vote on this, and there's certainly no constitutional authority for us. It's totally lawless, and it's dressed up in some bureaucratic paperwork, which is part and parcel of what we got used to during the Biden reign of terror 4 years. It was absolutely atrocious.
Absolutely. I know I only have a couple more minutes with you. So I wondered if you could address, we have a continuing rogue judge problem. It seems like there's been another case where a federal judge is trying to block expansion of the alligator Alcatraz. So if you could let us know, where do you think that's going to go?
Well, alligator Alcatraz, let's start at the top, because this is not a site that is, pristine, right? It was already developed years ago, decades ago. In fact, it was called the Dade Collier Training Transition Airport. It was part of the Everglades Jetport plan. Only one long runway actually still remains. It's sometimes sporadically used for some aviation training or whatever. But, this is already using basically a disturbed state managed site. It means there's no displacement of any existing communities. There's no conflict with tribal lands, essentially. It's basically a footprint that doesn't sit in anything that the tribes are so concerned about at the moment. But this does reduce the weight of any land grab claims that aligns with any of the principles of using previously developed infrastructure before there was a disturbance. Here's the constitutional authority, plain and simple. I said it before, Article 4, Section 4, mandates that the federal government, and by extension, the states under the 10th Amendment, must protect the states from invasion. And I want to remind you, all 50 governors during the Biden reign of terror, nobody stepped up to enforce Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. That is the state's rights to repel a foreign invasion. And I'm going to say this, and it's bold when I say this, but that includes Kristi Noem. She was governor at the time, and she didn't step up to enforce Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. So we do actually have the right to act in our own self-defense, and this is what alligator Alcatraz is all about. So anybody quipping to the, to the negative of that simply doesn't understand the founding principles of our country.
Excellent. And I know you're short on time today, so I just want to make sure that you get out there. There is an event coming up. Can you tell us about this, what we should be marking our calendar for? I believe it's in Boston, correct?
Yes. We have our debut of our second documentary that we're putting out called Taken, State-Sanctioned Kidnapping. It's about Child Protective Services and the illegalities of how they are destroying families around our country in all 50 states through their different agencies and parasitic organizations. You can find this. It is posted on our website, AmericanMadeFoundation.org. We are selling tickets to that in the theater there in Dedham, Massachusetts, a suburb outside Boston. It'll be on September 7th. From 6 to 9 p.m. We have VIP meetings before, and then there'll be the showing, and we'll have a little something afterwards as well.
Excellent. And plenty of time to make it to that. Looks very important. So make it to that there at Boston if you can. And thank you so much for dropping by and reminding us of all of these important points. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Christy.
You bet. All right, we are going to continue the conversation coming up here with Dan Lyman. But first, just to remind you, we are able to have these conversations. We're able to and can come on here and have a little quip about Kristi Noem that maybe wouldn't be appropriate on other news stations, because it's all free speech here. It's all opinions. We are here to be critical, but also celebrate the things that deserve being celebrated. China's not controlling us. George Soros isn't controlling us, which cannot be said, or Big Pharma. That cannot be said of so many other networks. So we are only able to do this through your support and basically you going shopping. You can go to mypillow.com. You can use promo code KL and shop to keep us on air and keep us talking to anyone and everyone about anything, because that is what Mike Lindell is passionate about. That is what each of us are passionate about. So if you need some fresh pillows, you need some fresh sheets, just make sure that you support Mike Lindell. You go to mypillow.com. You can use promo code KL to get the extra savings there and free shipping. And if you haven't tried the slippers yet, that's one of my personal favorites there on mypillow.com is those slippers. So get yourself a pair. He's adding new products all the time, and you can feel good about where they're made. So mypillow.com, promo code KL. All right, moving on, but staying on topic, Dan Lyman, he is the editor-in-chief at Border Hawk News, borderhawk.news, and a writer at InfoWars. Obviously love InfoWars with my past experience there. So Dan Lyman, I want to welcome you in. Thank you for your relentless work on the border, but also we've had an invasion. They've come into many of our cities. And so now maybe you're doing a little less work at the border and more on where these people have invaded to, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for having me, Kristi. We, for the last 4 years, during the 4 years of the Biden era, we spent a lot of time at the border focusing on those issues because, of course, that was the issue of the time. And now we've seen the ramifications of allowing up to 20 million illegal aliens flood the country. And so we've shifted our focus to the interior now because the borders are effectively secured at this point. The numbers continue to drop every month. They really are stunning. Even month to month, they're dropping at incredible rates. But now we're focused on the interior and ICE's operations in our sanctuary cities. And of course, the crime in our sanctuary cities that is just ravaging so many different metropolitan areas across the country. And of course, the number one hot topic right now is Washington, D.C. And because we are now in the White House with the press pass, we have a correspondent there in D.C. and we are focused now on all the happenings there as the Trump administration cracks down on all manner of criminality, vagrancy, and disgustingness in our nation's capital.
And I know that it's been really thrilling for us here at Lindell TV to be called on by the president and recognized by the president. And so I'm sure that was thrilling for you as well when the president did notice your reporting. If we could, let's play that clip of Trump acknowledging basically what was happening in D.C. thanks to Border Hawk News. Let's watch.
Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night.
So we appreciate you being out there, but gosh, you being there, your team being there on the scene, seeing these things go down, and then turning on the TV or seeing clips on the internet of legacy media saying the crime rates are down. You know, what are they talking about? This is authoritarian. What is that like?
Yeah, so it's amazing. So we have our correspondent, like I said, in D.C. He's in the White House nearly every day, but in his free time, he also roams the streets and covers various protests. There's always something going on between the Israeli and Palestinian factions in D.C. and all manner of protests against ICE as well. And so on Saturday night, he happened to be out covering some of this unrest at some of the government buildings, and he found his way into Navy Yard. And Navy Yard is considered one of the more upscale, trendy, up-and-coming neighborhoods in D.C. This is where a lot of young professionals, for instance, would go or perhaps with their families to go out to eat, to catch a ball game, to catch a concert. So it's one of these places where people with a few bucks like to congregate. They like to live as well. There's nice housing opportunities there. But at the same time, this neighborhood is well known for quote unquote teen takeovers. And essentially what this is dozens or hundreds of teenagers. We can use a variety of different euphemisms to describe them, but your audience can probably guess what this looks like. And so they just ravage the streets there. They ride dirt bikes up and down. They pop wheelies. They menace bystanders. They set off fireworks. And so Washington, D.C. police was prepared for this on Saturday night. They knew this was coming. Usually these things are organized on social media or through social platforms. And so when our reporter arrived on the scene, police was already staged. They had non-lethal weapons prepared. They had loudspeakers, bright lights, all that sort of thing ready to take on the latest teen takeover in Navy Yard. And so our reporter was actually conversing with police on the ground that night when gunshots rang out just a few feet away. And so you can see from this footage, he was right there as officers and a cadre of various federal law enforcement descended on the shooter. We have footage of the arrest of the shooter, who was a minor, and a recovery of a firearm at the scene. Thankfully, nobody was injured. So that's a good thing, but this goes on all the time and the legacy media refuses to report on it. We were actually asked by a couple of different residents of Navy Yard if this reporting was authentic and timely because they hadn't seen anything from local media about this incident. And we said, absolutely, we were actually the only reporters on the ground. And that's why we know President Trump was recognizing our reporting. It was all over Fox News this week. And because we were the only ones with footage, we had BBC running our footage, News Nation, you name it. So this is an issue that has plagued Navy Yard and the city for a long time now. And we just happened to catch it right before the president was expected to make this historic announcement on Monday, which he did. And we're starting to see that rollout happen this week.
Do you feel like it's purposeful that there wasn't more of a media presence to catch this kind of stuff? Do you think it's complicity by the media to willfully ignore stuff like this?
Oh, of course, absolutely. I mean, if it had been 100 Proud Boys descending on Navy Yard to protest, you can imagine every news outlet from local to the national, international level would have been on scene, ready to cover it. And this happens all the time. Like I said, it gets very little attention. But now that this recent incident went totally viral, of course, now that the president has recognized it, and now that there is a massive, overwhelming show of law enforcement on the streets of D.C., both local and federal, this is the front and center issue in the nation, and it's really amazing to see how polarizing it is. It shouldn't be surprising, But to see how many Democrats are insisting that there is no crime wave in D.C., that crime is down in the nation's capital, is just absolutely ridiculous. If you look at crime statistics over the last couple of years, not just homicides. Homicides are one issue, of course, and it is one of the most deadly cities in the country, but other things like carjackings. Carjackings spiked from 2022 to 23 from about 500 per year, which is unacceptable, to nearly 1,000 in 2023. Miraculously, they fell back down to about 500 the following year. And what we've learned recently, as DC police was cooking the books, and that the DC police chief doesn't even know what chain of command means. So I highly doubt that there was any sort of increased enforcement to bring it back down from 1,000 to 500. My guess is they're covering these crimes up. And in many cases, these crimes are being committed by juveniles, which is extremely troubling. And, I can only imagine that if the administration does actually effectively clean up the situation in D.C., at least temporarily, that these juveniles, many of them, they come from outside the city to cause havoc in the nation's capital. They'll find other places to do it, for instance, in the suburbs or in Baltimore. And so we can expect probably to see an increase in crime in the surrounding areas around D.C. would be my suspicion. It'll be very interesting to see if the administration takes steps to begin securing other cities around the country. The president did hint at that during Monday's press conference.
Yes, absolutely. As somebody that's been having an eye on the border, literally your called Border Hawk News, I was curious about your thoughts on Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, our last guest. Ann Vandersteel said she feels like she could have done more when she was governor and along with other governors, to help get ahead of the problem, because now we're having to clean up the problem after we've been invaded. But I wanted to show a quick clip of Kristi Noem, who is out there giving us hope that, we're going to hire all these people and we're going to be able to make a difference. And then you can give me your thoughts on the other side. But let's go ahead and watch that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
You have already well over 100,000 applications?
We do. In fact, as of today, about 110,000 applications in less than 2 weeks. And that's what I find so encouraging, is it's clear the American people are behind President Trump and these officers. They have their backs, and they want to be a part of what's happening in this country by making it safe again. So despite what, the fake news says, despite what the liberals and the socialists and the Marxists are parroting every single day out in their communities and to their supporters, it's just not true. The American people are so happy, and they're excited about the fact that the rule of law is going to apply to everybody, and that Americans and citizens who follow the law should be prioritized, and that President Trump is doing exactly that. So to have that many applications means that we're going to hire the best of the best, and individuals who have experience can get qualified for their ICE badge as soon as possible and hit the streets so that they can make sure that these families get to live safely again.
So how do we feel about Kristi Noem? How do you feel like she's doing?
A pretty good job. I mean, all of us want to see more. We want to see everything ramping up. Kristi Noem did announce today that the illegal immigrant population in the U.S. has dropped by 1.6 million since Trump took office. I'd like to see how that's broken up. I do believe deportations are somewhere between 150 and 200,000 since the administration came in. And so there are also rumors and speculations and studies that are being done that say that more than 1 million have removed themselves from the country one way or another. If that is true, then it seems like we are accelerating, but it remains to be seen. But there are a lot of different metrics, a lot of different whisperings that aren't necessarily immigration related, but that if you are paying attention to these issues and seeing all these different data points, it could be true. And one of those metrics I saw from a kind of a real estate focused person on X is that occupancy rates in apartments across the country in major cities is starting to drop dramatically. Why is that the case? There could be it could be that people are starting to leave the country that weren't supposed to be here in the first place. And we know, of course, there is certainly a housing crisis in this country due to just a lack, a low inventory in some places, but also prices are through the roof. And I do believe a lot of that is upward pressure from bringing in, for instance, 20 million people into the country during the Biden era. You can't do that without them, most of them needing places to live. So you start seeing different metrics and different data points coming in that indicate that maybe we are starting to deflate the population a little bit. That is encouraging. The hiring or the application of more than 100,000 people that want to work in immigration law enforcement is also very encouraging. I was glad to see that they removed the age cap, because I know there's a lot of vets out there, a lot of people that would love to come back out of retirement to aid in these efforts. And if they're able-bodied and willing to do so, or perhaps they're good at, working behind the desk and making sure the wheels turn in the behind the scenes, then maybe that would also be some place for some of these people. But I know that a lot of people want to chip in on this effort, and I do hope that they do good vetting and good training before they send these people out on the street. But this is exactly what needs to happen. The funding has come in through the big, beautiful bill, and now they need to ramp up the infrastructure, and we're starting to see that. They're starting to bring in more personnel. Additionally, they're starting to work with the states to spin up more detention centers. We just saw an announcement of another major facility that's going to be launched in West Tennessee. We saw the Speedway Slammer is going to be opening in Indiana. We talked about Alligator Alcatraz with the prior guest. Florida is planning a second detention center in Florida for such purposes. These things all need to happen at warp speed, pun intended, and we need to we really need to get this firing up, because we're already 8 months into the administration. So there's a lot of work to be done here if a lot is going to be accomplished in the next 3.5 years.
Yeah, Trump needs to redeem himself with a new good warp speed, not the disastrous warp speed the last go round. Now, one thing I do think that sometimes the media is good at in terms of being able to manipulate people, the legacy media, the mainstream media, the propaganda puppets, you know what I mean? One thing I think that they can be good at is trying to hit a nerve where people like us would care about. So I've noticed that the new narrative in pushing this authoritarian thing that they're trying to make stick for Trump is to say, I thought you guys were against police states or against federal government coming in. I thought that was your thing, and look at him now. Look how he's taking over. And so I do think that can work on some people, and there is reason to be concerned. I mean, we have been burned by things like that in the past, obviously. So you have the Atlantic coming out with an article basically pushing this narrative, like, why aren't you guys against him taking over DC? And then you have Politico that's putting out an article saying that they think that this plan of him to try and crush the Mexican drug cartels could possibly backfire and cause even more of a drug problem. And so they find ways to spin and try and hit nerves about things that the right would care about. Do you think that will work? Does any of this cause you any concern?
To be honest, no. I'm not a libertarian, and I'm not someone who believes that the state should not wield power. And at this point, we have seen that it doesn't really matter how much power the right tries to accumulate if we're trying to consider that the left is going to wield just as much. They do wield just as much. They have wielded just as much. We saw total authoritarianism under the Biden administration during the COVID lockdowns, during the persecution of J6ers across the board, and the DOJ going after people for sharing memes on the internet. I mean, I don't think we should be worried about that so much as we should be worried about them ever regaining power again. I think that is more of a concern, but that the only way to restore order to this country is going to be via state force. And I think it's the kind of state force that was imposed in El Salvador. Nayib Bukele has done an absolutely fantastic job there. There can be benevolent state force. And I think that's really the only path forward, because the country is spiraling out of control. And if things aren't cleaned up immediately, if 20 to 50 million people aren't removed from this country immediately, if vagrants and criminals and gangs are not cracked down on with the swiftest, most relentless fist of an authoritarian right-wing government, then it's just going to continue to spiral out of control. And I think that it can be done. It can be done in the right way. Of course, there are going to be some missteps along the way. This is a massive effort to clean up this country. And it's going to take a really, really huge endeavor to do it. But I don't think that there's any other way to reach that point because things have gone over the cliff. So I'm not really worried about that. I think that if they do this correctly and pass things on to another administration with similar goals, then everything will be fine. And if not, the country's toast anyways.
There you go. We always like to leave things on a positive note, right? Dan, I so miss seeing you. I love seeing you in person, and so it's been a treat to have you on. And I know we'll have much more of you. Anything else that you wanted to share with us before we let you get back to it?
Sure. We'll let your viewers know that we are going to be embedding with the federal authorities, with ICE specifically, in the nation's capital in the coming days and weeks to showcase their efforts, and we'll be on the ground with them. So people should look out for our reports, borderhawk.news, and on X at borderhawknews. And of course, you can always find the rest of my work at infowars.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, there just continues to be document drops. I was inspired to say, we've got the documents because I had my fellow info warrior here with me. Yes, more documents coming out revealing the plot against the president, the Russia scheme that it was. But we're going to take a quick commercial. We'll cover what we can upon our return when we get back.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally. With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Welcome back to DC Dispatch. I don't know if you saw it, but just the news, they dropped a jaw dropper revealing a Democrat whistleblower told the FBI that then Rep. Adam Schiff greenlit leaking classified intel to smear Trump during the Russia hoax starting in 2017. This career intelligence officer, a Schiff ally, said he okayed the leaks to push the now debunked collusion narrative, and now declassified FBI memos back it up. Schiff's team calls it nonsense. But why would anyone believe that perpetual liar at this point? Another motive is also coming to light. It turns out Shifty Schiff was feeling sour. He didn't get his CIA job that he was hoping for under Hillary Clinton. Here's Maria Bartiromo with that news.
Unsubstantiated from a disgruntled former staffer. Ashley Davis, the whistleblower, says all this started because Adam Schiff assumed he was going to be the CIA director in a Hillary Clinton administration. Of course, President Trump won, and for years we poked holes in this ridiculous story of Russia collusion that Adam Schiff was going on all these shows claiming about President Trump.
Pencil neck. Yeah, we have the evidence that he never actually showed. All this declassification, though, and all these new revelations, that's great. But what we really need are arrests. And some investigative journalists are feeling pretty confident that that will happen. That's what needs to happen, right? Here's Matt Taibbi with Chris Cuomo saying as much.
I think there are going to be indictments. I was very skeptical on that question even a couple of weeks ago, but I have heard repeatedly from these folks that they understand that this is not a hearts and minds contest and that they are not doing this for show, and that if they don't end up in a courtroom, that this will be a massive political failure for them. So I do think that there will be significant indictments. I just don't know what for. I mean, I think that's a very important question to ask right now. We know a grand jury has been convened, but they haven't really given us a strong indication about what crimes they might be investigating.
And that's the thing. They need to do this strategically. They need, if they're going to bring them into court, if they're going to make these arrests, they need them to stick, because the only thing worse would be to make these arrests and then nothing happens. So I do understand, and we understand, that there needs to be, it will take time to make this very strategic and stick them on what they can. Meanwhile, while Trump was being set up under false accusations, it served as a distraction as the real criminal was being protected. Just the News reports a newly declassified FBI timeline exposes how the Obama Justice Department and FBI bosses like Sally Yates and Andrew McCabe shut down a 2016 probe into Hillary Clinton's foundation for alleged pay-to-play schemes while pushing the bogus Russia collusion narrative against Trump. Agents in New York, Little Rock, and D.C. faced roadblocks, with Yates ordering, shut it down, and McCabe requiring personal approval for any moves, stalling the case past the election. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi's strike force is digging in. Meanwhile, speaking of Russia, while our president of peace is getting ready to meet with Putin to try and end the war with Ukraine, a typical war hawk, John Bolton, is trying to sabotage those efforts. Watch.
And talked about Trump-Putin meeting that is scheduled to take place in Alaska later this week. What do you think is going to be, what interesting aspects are going to be brought out in the meeting between both these leaders?
Well, I think Putin's objective is to try to use his KGB training on Trump and get him back to believing that he and Putin are friends. And by doing that, Putin hopes to convince Trump that he's serious about peace, to get him as close as he can to signing on to the Russian peace proposal.
Now we know that he's a war hawk. He doesn't ever see a war that he wouldn't like to just keep on going, right? So John Bolton there, of course, dropping the KGB. You know, he's just trying to do anything to sabotage this upcoming meeting in Alaska. But that's typical, of course. All right, well, I need to wrap up my DC dispatch. We have so much more in store for Lindell TV White House coverage live. I want to remind you that you can always continue to support Mike Lindell by going to mypillow.com using promo code KL, or you can donate to him directly by going to his Gifts and Go. And of course, continue to pray for Mike. Again, that's giftsandgo.com/Lindell. He is still fighting the courts and needs your help to stand on that principle. And we're so thankful for Mike being able to do that. All right. Well, again, keep it locked in right here at Lindell TV White House coverage. And we have so much more in store for you. Thanks for watching.
Have you ever